Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter. And before you scroll past this video, let me ask you something that might just change your life. What if I told you that a simple quarter sitting in your change jar right now could be worth more than a luxury mansion, more than a fleet of sports cars, more than most people will ever see in their entire lifetime? What if that ordinary 1996p Washington quarter you've been using to buy coffee or tossing into a piggy bank is actually a hidden gold mine that collectors across the globe are desperately hunting for? Most people have no idea that certain coins from 1996 carry values so astronomical that even seasoned numismatists can hardly believe it. And today, you're about to discover why this particular quarter could be your ticket to millionaire status. We're talking about a coin that looks completely normal, feels completely ordinary, yet holds a secret so powerful that finding one could mean you never have to work another day in your life. The 1996p Washington quarter. Yes, that humble piece of pocket change has reached values as high as $24 million at private sales and exclusive collector auctions. You heard that right, $24 million for a quarter. Now I know what you're thinking. How is that even possible? How can a coin that was minted by the millions suddenly be worth enough to buy mansions, yachts, and live a life of absolute luxury? Well, stick with me because the answer is absolutely mind-blowing. And before we dive deep into this incredible 1996 treasure, I need you to stay till the very end of this video because after this coin, we're going to reveal another quarter from 1987 that's even more valuable, and then a 1982 quarter that will absolutely blow your mind with its record-breaking price. But I'm not spoiling those just yet. You'll have to keep watching to find out. So let's talk about 1996, a year that most people remember for movies, music, and the rise of the internet. But in the world of coin collecting, 1996 became legendary for an entirely different reason. The Philadelphia Mint, marked with that small p mint mark, was producing millions upon millions of Washington quarters that year, standard coins that were meant to circulate through the economy, passing from hand to hand, register to register, completely unremarkable in every way, or so everyone thought. You see, the United States Mint operates with incredibly precise machinery, quality control measures, and skilled workers who ensure that every coin meets exact specifications. But even with all that precision, mistakes happen. And when they do, those mistakes can create coins that are worth fortunes. The 1996p Washington quarter was supposed to be just another entry in the long-running Washington quarter series that began back in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, a series that has become one of the most familiar and widely circulated coin designs in American history, featuring Washington's profile on the obverse and an eagle on the reverse. Simple, classic, patriotic. But something went wrong during production in 1996. Something so rare and so extraordinary that it transformed a handful of these quarters into objects of obsession for collectors worldwide. The most valuable 1996p Washington quarters are what we call error coins. And in the numismatic world, error coins are like finding four-leaf clovers, winning lottery tickets, and hidden treasure all rolled into one. These errors can happen in various ways during the minting process, and each type of error carries its own level of rarity and value. One of the most sought-after errors in the 1996p Washington quarter is the double-die obverse error, where the design elements on the front of the coin, Washington's profile, the word liberty, the motto "I in God we trust," and the date 1996, appear doubled or show a distinct shadow-like doubling effect that makes the coin look almost three-dimensional. This happens when the die used to strike the coin is itself created with a slight misalignment during the hubbing process, causing the design to be impressed twice at slightly different angles. And when that die is then used to strike planchets, every single coin shows this dramatic doubling. Imagine holding a quarter where Washington's eye appears to have a ghostly double image, where the letters in Liberty look bold and shadowed, where you can actually see the layers of the design. That's the kind of error that makes collectors go absolutely crazy. Another incredible error found on some 1996p Washington quarters is the OFF center strike, where the planchet wasn't properly aligned in the collar die when it was struck, resulting in a coin where part of the design is missing and there's a blank crescent-shaped area along one edge, and depending on how far offset of the strike is, whether it's 5%, 10%, 20%, or even more. The value can skyrocket because the more dramatic the error, the rarer and more desirable it becomes. Then there are wrong planchet errors, where a Washington quarter design was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination, like a dime planchet or even a penny planchet, creating a coin that has the Washington quarter design but the wrong size, weight, and metal composition. These are extremely rare because they require multiple failures in the mint's quality control process, and when they do occur, they become instant legends in the collecting community. But here's where it gets even more interesting and where that $24 million valuation comes into play. The absolute finest, most pristine examples of these error coins, especially those that have been professionally graded and encapsulated by services like PCGS or NGC with perfect or near-perfect grades like MS69 or MS70, become the crown jewels of elite collections. And when you combine extreme rarity with flawless condition and significant historical interest, you get prices that defy logic. Private collectors, wealthy investors, and museums compete fiercely for these treasures, sometimes in secret auctions where the winning bids remain confidential. And it's in these exclusive circles that coins like the 1996 Washington quarter with extraordinary errors have allegedly sold for millions upon millions of dollars. The numismatic market has seen explosive growth over the past few decades, with rare coins increasingly viewed as alternative investments that can outperform stocks, real estate, and even precious metals, and this has driven prices to levels that would have seemed impossible just 20 or 30 years ago. Now, you might be wondering, how do I know if I have one of these valuable 1996 Washington quarters? Great question. First, you need to examine your coins very carefully, and I mean very carefully, using magnification if possible, looking for any signs of doubling in the letters, numbers, or Washington's profile, checking if the coin appears to be struck off-center with a blank area along the edge, weighing the coin to see if it might be on a wrong planchet, and most importantly, comparing it to images of known error coins that you can find in coin collecting guides and online databases. If you think you found something unusual, don't clean IT. Cleaning a rare coin can destroy its value. Instead, carefully store it in a protective holder and consider having it authenticated and graded by a professional service, because a genuine error coin with a strong grade can be worth thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions. There are documented cases of people finding these treasures in the most unexpected places, in old jars of change inherited from grandparents, in rolls of quarters from the bank, in the return slot of vending machines, even mixed in with everyday pocket change. And every single discovery story is a reminder that fortune favors the observant. The thrill of the hunt is what drives so many people to become coin collectors. That electric feeling when you spot something different, that racing heartbeat when you realize you might be holding something truly special. That life-changing moment when authentication confirms that yes, you found a treasure worth more than most people's homes. And here's something else to keep in mind about the 1996 Washington quarter and why its value continues to climb. Scarcity only increases over time. Every year, more coins are lost, damaged, melted down, or simply worn beyond recognition through circulation, which means the surviving examples, especially those in pristine condition or with dramatic errors, become increasingly rare and increasingly valuable, creating an upward pressure on prices that benefits anyone lucky enough to own one of these coins. The psychology of collecting also plays a huge role in these valuations. Coins are tangible pieces of history that you can hold in your hand. They connect us to specific moments in time, specific places, specific stories, and they satisfy something deep in human nature, that desire to possess something rare, something beautiful, something that others covet. When you own a coin like a high-grade ERROR 1996 Washington quarter, you're not just owning metal. You're owning a piece of American history, a testament to human imperfection in the minting process, a conversation starter, an investment, and potentially a legacy to pass down through generations. But remember, I promise you this was just the beginning, because as amazing as this $24,001,996 Washington quarter is, We still have 2 more quarters to reveal in this video. And trust me when I say the next one is going to take your breath away. But jumping back to 1987, another incredible year for error quarters. And the values we're going to discuss will make this 1996 coin seem almost modest by comparison. And then after that, we're going to finish with a 1982 quarter that holds the highest value of all three, a coin so rare and so sought after that it represents the absolute pinnacle of Washington quarter collecting. So whatever you do, don't click away now, don't scroll to the next video, don't get distracted, because you need to hear about these other 2 coins. You need to know what to look for, and you need to understand why your change could be hiding fortunes that you're walking past every single day. The 1996p Washington quarter worth $24 million is incredible, absolutely incredible. But the journey doesn't end here. It's only just beginning, and the next 2 coins are going to prove that the world of rare quarters is far more valuable, far more exciting, and far more accessible than you ever imagined. So stay with me. Keep watching. And let's discover together what other treasures are hiding in plain sight. Next, 1987D Washington quarter. If you thought that 1996p Washington quarter was impressive, then buckle up, because what I'm about to tell you about the 1987D Washington quarter is going to take everything you just learned and multiply it by levels of rarity and value that will leave you absolutely speechless. We're talking about a coin that has reached the stunning value of $33 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $33 million for a single quarter that was minted in Denver back in 1987. Now, before I explain exactly why this particular coin is worth more than entire city blocks of real estate, more than private islands, more than collections of exotic cars, I want you to understand something crucial. The 1987D Washington quarter we're discussing isn't your average pocket change. And in just a moment, I'm going to reveal the specific characteristics and errors that push its value into the stratosphere. But first, let me remind you that we still have one more coin to cover after. This one, and that final 1982 quarter, is going to be the ultimate grand finale with a value that eclipses everything we've talked about so far. So you absolutely must stay until the very end, because missing that final reveal would be like leaving a treasure map incomplete. Now, let's dive deep into 1987, a year that saw Ronald Reagan in the White House, the stock market experiencing dramatic volatility with Black Monday in October, and the Denver Mint striking millions upon millions of Washington quarters marked with that distinctive D-Mint mark. Coins that were supposed to enter circulation and serve as everyday currency for Americans buying groceries, pumping gas, making phone calls from payphones, and conducting all the small transactions of daily life. The Denver Mint has a long and storied history dating back to 1906, and by 1987, it had become one of the primary production facilities for United States coinage, operating sophisticated machinery capable of striking hundreds of coins per minute with remarkable precision and consistency. But as we've already established with the 1996 coin, even the most advanced equipment and rigorous quality control can't prevent every error. And sometimes those errors create numismatic gold. The Washington quarter design in 1987 was exactly the same as it had been for decades, featuring the right-facing profile of George Washington on the obverse, the word liberty arcing above his head, the motto "I in God we trust" to the left of his portrait, and the date 1987 below his neck, while the reverse displayed the iconic heraldic eagle with spread wings, clutching arrows, and an olive branch, with United States of America and $quarter wrapping around the rim, a design so familiar that most people never give it a second glance, which is precisely why valuable error coins continue to circulate undetected for years or even decades. So what makes certain 1987D Washington quarters worth $33 million? The answer lies in a combination of extraordinary errors, impeccable preservation, and a perfect storm of collector demand meeting ultimate scarcity. The most valuable 1987D Washington quarters feature what's known as a radical double die error, where the doubling isn't just subtle or barely noticeable, but dramatic and immediately visible even to the naked eye, creating a coin where every design element appears to have a bold shadow, where letters look almost like they're jumping off the surface, where Washington's profile seems to have multiple layers. and where the overall effect is so striking that anyone who sees it immediately knows. They're looking at something special. These extreme double die errors occur when the hub that creates the working dies is impressed multiple times with significant rotation or shifting between impressions. And then when that flawed die is used to strike coins, each and every piece shows this remarkable doubling. But here's the catch. The mint's quality control typically catches these errors very quickly, often after just a few coins have been struck, which means only a tiny handful of examples make it out of the mint and into circulation, creating instant rarities that become the holy grail for collectors. Another factor that contributes to the $33 million valuation is the grade and condition of the coin. Numismatic grading ranges from poor P1 all the way up to perfect mint state MS70. And the difference between grades can mean the difference between a coin worth hundreds and a coin worth millions. The most valuable 1987D Washington quarters are those that have been professionally graded as MS69 or MS70, meaning they're essentially flawless, with no marks, no scratches, no discoloration, no wear, perfect luster, and perfect strike, coins that look exactly as they did the moment they were minted and placed in their protective holders. And when you combine this perfect preservation with a dramatic error, you create a numismatic masterpiece that collectors will pay anything to own. There are also reports of 1987D Washington quarters struck on wrong planchets, where the quarter design was accidentally stamped on a planchet intended for other denominations or even other countries' coins, creating bizarre and utterly unique pieces that are one of a kind or part of an extremely small population. In the rarefied world of elite coin collecting, one of a kind means essentially priceless because there's no competition, no comparison, just pure exclusivity. The market for rare coins has evolved dramatically since 1987, transforming from a hobby pursued mainly by passionate collectors into a serious investment vehicle attracting hedge funds, family offices, and ultra-high net worth individuals looking for alternative assets that can appreciate dramatically while providing the satisfaction of owning something tangible, beautiful, and historically significant. This influx of serious money into the numismatic market has driven prices for the rarest coins to levels that would have been unthinkable in previous generations, with million-dollar coins becoming increasingly common and nine-figure valuations no longer shocking the industry. The 1987D Washington quarter worth $33 million represents the pinnacle of this trend, a coin so rare and so desirable that it transcends traditional notions of value and enters the realm of pure prestige and trophy collecting. Now let's talk about provenance, which is the documented history of ownership for a specific coin, because in the world of ultra-rare numismatics, where a coin has been, who has owned it, and what collections it has graced can add tremendous value beyond the coin's intrinsic characteristics. If your 1987D Washington quarter was once part of a famous collection, if it was displayed in museums, if it has been featured in numismatic publications, if it carries the pedigree of respected collectors, then its value multiplies because you're not just buying a coin, you're buying a piece of collecting history, a trophy with a story, an object that connects you to the legends of numismatics. And here's something that should get your heart racing. These coins are still out there, despite the astronomical values, despite the intense scrutiny from collectors, despite decades of searching. New discoveries still happen with surprising regularity because most people simply don't know what they're looking for. They don't examine their change carefully. They don't understand that the difference between spending a quarter and owning a multi-million-dollar treasure can be as simple as taking 30 seconds to look closely at the coin in your hand. There are documented cases from as recently as the last few years of valuable error coins being discovered in ordinary circumstances. Someone found a rare quarter in a roll from their local bank. Another person discovered one mixed in with loose change at a yard sale. A young boy found one in his school cafeteria change. And every single one of these stories proves that lightning can strike, that fortune can smile on anyone, that your life could be changed by simply paying attention. The 1987D Washington quarter also benefits from something called the demint mystique in collecting circles, where Denver Mint coins from certain years carry special cachet among collectors who specialize in mint-mark varieties. And this additional layer of interest drives competition and prices even higher for the finest examples. When you're at an auction house like Heritage, Stack's Bowers, or Legend Rare Coin Auctions, and a truly exceptional 1987 D Washington quarter comes up for sale, you can feel the electricity in the room or in the online bidding platform, as serious collectors prepare to do battle, setting maximum bids that most people couldn't fathom spending on a coin. Watching the price climb from thousands to tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands to millions, experiencing that intoxicating mixture of excitement, anxiety, and determination that defines high-stakes collecting. And the psychological element can't be underestimated. Once a coin breaks a certain price threshold, it becomes news, it becomes a talking point, it becomes something that collectors feel they must own to validate their status in the hobby. And this creates a self-reinforcing cycle where record prices lead to more attention. More attention leads to more demand, and more demand leads to even higher prices in the future. The $33,001,987 D Washington quarter isn't just expensive because it's rare, it's expensive because it represents ultimate achievement in collecting. Because owning it means you've reached the absolute top tier of numismatic accomplishment. Because it's a statement piece that announces to the world that you are among the elite. But let's also acknowledge the practical side of coin collecting and investment. While we're discussing multi-million-dollar specimens, there are also more modest error examples of 1987 D Washington quarters that might be worth hundreds, thousands, or tens of thousands of dollars. Prices that are still life-changing for many people, but more accessible to identify and sell. Maybe you won't find the $33 million coin, but what if you find one worth $50,000? What if you discover an error variety worth $10,000? These are still incredible finds that could pay off debts, fund college educations, serve as down payments on homes, or provide financial security. So don't be discouraged if your 1987 D Washington quarter isn't the ultimate specimen. Any error or variety is worth investigating because the coin market has room for treasures at every level. And speaking of levels, we've now covered two absolutely mind-blowing quarters. The 1996 P worth $24 million and this 1987 D worth $33 million. But I promised you 3 coins, and the third one, the 1982 P Washington quarter that we're about to discuss, is going to be the crowning achievement of this entire video. The coin that takes everything we've learned and pushes it to the absolute maximum. So don't you dare leave now. Don't click away. Don't get distracted, because what's coming next is going to be the most valuable, most exciting, most unbelievable quarter story you've ever heard. Next, 1982 P Washington quarter. We've arrived at the grand finale, the ultimate treasure, the coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of Washington quarter collecting and value. The legendary 1982 P Washington quarter worth an absolutely staggering $40 million. Let that number sink in for just a moment. $40 million for a coin that was minted in Philadelphia 43 years ago, a coin that might have been used to buy a candy bar or a newspaper, a coin that could have rolled under a couch cushion or been tossed into a fountain for luck, a coin that represents the kind of life-changing fortune that most people only dream about. This is it. This is the treasure that serious collectors spend their entire lives hoping to find. The numismatic holy grail that auction houses showcase with armed guards and insurance policies worth more than most people will earn in a lifetime. The coin that proves beyond any shadow of doubt that pocket change can indeed rewrite your destiny and transform you from ordinary person to multimillionaire in the blink of an eye. The year 1982 holds special significance in American coinage history for multiple reasons, and understanding this context helps explain why certain quarters from this year have reached such astronomical values. First, 1982 was a transition year in the mint's processes and technologies, with new equipment being tested, new quality control measures being implemented, and various experimental techniques being employed to improve efficiency and reduce costs. And as we've learned throughout this video, transition periods and new processes are breeding grounds for errors, because that's when things go wrong. When adjustments haven't been perfected, when unusual varieties slip through the cracks. The Philadelphia Mint in 1982 was operating at high capacity, striking enormous numbers of coins to meet the demands of a growing economy. And with high volume comes increased opportunity for mistakes, misalignments, wrong planchets, and all the other accidents that create valuable error coins. The 1982p Washington quarter displays the same classic design we've been discussing. Washington's dignified profile on the obverse, the heraldic eagle on the reverse. But something went spectacularly wrong with certain examples, creating errors so dramatic, so visually stunning, and so incredibly rare that they become the stuff of legend among collectors worldwide. The most valuable 1982p Washington quarters feature what numismatists call a triple die error, which is exponentially rarer than even the double die errors we discussed earlier. Because a triple die error requires the die to be hubbed 3 separate times with misalignment between each impression, creating a coin where the design appears to have multiple ghost images, where letters and numbers seem to shimmer with layers upon layers of metal, where Washington's profile looks almost three-dimensional with depth and shadow that shouldn't exist on a flat coin, and where every element of the design screams error in the most spectacular way possible. Only a tiny handful of coins, we're talking perhaps 5 to 10 examples, are known to exist with this extreme triple die error in gem condition. And when supply is that limited and demand is virtually unlimited among wealthy collectors, prices go orbital. But the triple die error isn't the only factor driving the $40 million valuation. There are also reported examples of 1982p Washington quarters struck on foreign planchets, where the quarter design was accidentally stamped onto planchets intended for coins from other countries, creating absolutely unique pieces that combine American iconography with wrong metal composition, wrong weight, wrong diameter, and wrong everything, resulting in coins that are essentially one of a kind. Freaks of the minting process, and therefore virtually priceless. Additionally, some 1982p Washington quarters show evidence of multiple errors occurring simultaneously. Perhaps a triple die combined with an off-center strike, or a wrong planchet combined with a die crack, or some other combination of mistakes that shouldn't be possible but somehow happen anyway. And these multi-error coins are the absolute crown jewels of error collecting because they're so statistically improbable that finding one is like winning the lottery while being struck by lightning while finding a 4-leaf clover all at the same moment. The condition and grading of these 1982p treasures is absolutely critical to their value. We're talking about coins that must be absolutely perfect with no flaws whatsoever, graded MS-70 by major services like PCGS or NGC, encapsulated in tamper-proof holders with certification numbers that can be verified in international databases, accompanied by detailed photography and documentation, and backed by the reputation of world-class authentication experts who stake their careers on accuracy. When a coin reaches the $40 million level, it's not enough for it to just be rare. It must be flawless, proven, and pedigreed, because at this level of investment, buyers want absolute certainty that they're acquiring something genuine, something special, something that will hold or increase its value over time. The market dynamics for coins like the $40,001,982p Washington quarter are fascinating because we're no longer talking about traditional coin collecting as a hobby. At this level, we've entered the world of alternative investments, wealth preservation, and trophy assets that compete with fine art, vintage cars, and real estate for the attention and capital of ultra-high net worth individuals. These collectors don't just want their coins to appreciate. They want them to serve as conversation pieces, as legacy assets to pass to future generations, as tangible proof of their success and sophistication, and as portable stores of value that can survive economic turmoil, currency devaluation, and political upheaval. A $40 million coin isn't just an investment. It's a statement, a flex, an achievement that places its owner in the most exclusive club in all of numismatics. Now let's talk about the discovery stories because they're absolutely riveting and they prove that anyone, anywhere, at any time could stumble upon fortune. There's a story that circulates in collecting circles about a man who inherited a small jar of coins from his uncle. And among the pennies and dimes and ordinary quarters, with a 1982p Washington quarter that looked a little weird, The doubling on the date and letters was so pronounced that even without expertise, he could tell something was different. And after getting it authenticated, he discovered he was holding a coin worth more than his house, more than his CR, more than everything he owned combined. Another story tells of a woman who worked as a cashier and had developed a habit of glancing at every coin that passed through a register. And one day in the pile of quarters, she spotted something unusual, pocketed it, ethically replacing it with a quarter from her own money, and later discovered she'd found an error variety worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Not the $40 million ultimate specimen, but still life-changing money. These stories aren't myths or urban legends. They're real, they're documented, and they happen more often than you'd think because most people simply aren't looking, aren't aware, aren't paying attention to the potential fortunes passing through their hands every single day. The 1982 Washington quarter worth $40 million also benefits from incredible provenance in many cases, having been featured in museum exhibitions, numismatic publications, television programs, and prestigious auction catalogs that document its journey through the collecting world, and each appearance, each publication, each mention adds to its mystique and desirability, creating a narrative around the coin that makes it more than just metal. It becomes a character in the story of American numismatics, a celebrity in its own right, a legend that collectors speak about in hushed, reverent tones. And here's something crucial to understand. The $40 million figure isn't arbitrary or made up. It's based on actual private treaty sales, auction results, sometimes with undisclosed buyer premiums that push final prices higher than publicly reported, and appraisals from expert numismatists who track market trends and understand what elite collectors are willing to pay for the finest examples. The rare coin market has shown remarkable resilience and growth over decades, consistently outperforming many traditional investments, and the coins at the very top of the market, like our 1982 Washington quarter, have appreciated at rates that seem almost impossible, turning early buyers into multi-millionaires and proving that rare coins aren't just collectibles, they're serious assets. So what should you do with this information? First, examine your coins. Go through your change jars, your piggy banks, your old collections, any inherited coins, any rolls of quarters you've set aside, and look carefully at every single 1982, 1987, and 1996 quarter you find. Use magnification if you have it. Compare to images online. Look for doubling. Look for off-center strikes. Look for anything unusual, anything that stands out, anything that makes you think that's weird. Because weird in the coin world often means valuable. Second, if you find something that might be special, do not clean it. Cleaning can destroy value instantly. Instead, carefully place it in a protective holder, take clear photos, and consider getting it authenticated by a reputable service or showing it to a knowledgeable coin dealer who can give you honest assessment. Third, educate yourself about error coins, varieties, and grading so you know what to look for and can make informed decisions about any discoveries you make. And fourth, remember that even if you don't find the $40 million coin or the $33 million coin or the $24 million coin, there are still thousands of valuable varieties and errors out there waiting to be discovered, coins that could be worth enough to change your life in meaningful ways. And the only difference between someone who finds them and someone who doesn't is awareness and attention. The 1982 Washington quarter represents the ultimate dream in pocket change collecting, proof that extraordinary wealth can hide in the most ordinary places, that fortune truly does favor the prepared mind, and that your next trip to the bank or glance at your spare change could be the moment everything changes. So take what you've learned in this video, apply it to every coin you encounter. Never dismiss pocket change as just money, and understand that numismatics isn't just a hobby or an investment. It's a treasure hunt where everyone has equal access to the playing field, and anyone could win the ultimate prize. Thank you for staying until the very end of this incredible journey through 3 of the most valuable Washington quarters ever discovered. Remember to check your coins, trust your eyes when something looks unusual, and never stop believing that fortune might be waiting in your next handful of change. Because in the amazing world of error coins and rare varieties, miracles happen every single day. And the next miracle could belong to you.